your thoughts on Homan, and do you think that questions about Noem having too little experience are valid?
Adrienne, thanks for inviting me. No, I think the criticism is overdone. She's the senior executive in the state of South Dakota. She's the governor. She serves that constituency, by all accounts, very well. She was also in the House, so she understands the dynamics of federal budgets, of appropriations, how laws are enacted, and what availability that regulations have to fix things on the border. She was concerned enough about what was going on in the southern border in 2023. Texas and Arizona asked for help, and she sent National Guard down there. And so I think it's overblown. I think the border needs to be secured, and we've gone through 3+ years of out-of-control immigration and chaos at the border, which is not good for anybody. It's affected every city and town in the United States. Your previous hit on Lake and Riley and her family have to go through a trial now of a man who killed her, was not supposed to be in the United States. And so there's been a big problem for the last 3.5 years. And so now it's time for us to correct that problem. The government itself has said there's 11 million people who have come across the border illegally, 85% of which have come into the United States and been released. And so we've got to do something about that. And so fixing the border, being tough but smart about what happens at our border, and being tough and smart about what happens in the interior of the United States, so that we can have an immigration system that is both generous and has integrity.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people forget that, as you mentioned, it's affecting everyone. It's not just affecting border states, though they get the brunt of it. North Dakota is seeing a huge spike in the number of illegal immigrants into their state, and under Governor Noem's leadership, as you mentioned. So plenty of experience there, as all governors have been dealing with the problem. What do we know about if we'll see a rush? We're looking at winter months. We're looking at colder temperatures, a more challenging journey to the border by those who are migrating through Central America. Will we see a rush ahead of January 20th and the inauguration? And when people are reporting now that there are 1,000 fewer people coming across right now, what do we attribute it to?
It's about incentives. Right now, this executive order has muted the traffic, but that's also a problem because they know that when Joe Biden leaves office and Donald Trump becomes the commander-in-chief, that things are going to change on the border. So there'll be fewer gotaways. There'll be fewer people coming to the border. And some smugglers and some cartels may use the occasion of the ending Biden administration to get people in. People might have that desire. Think about this as a market. If they're incentivized to come into the United States with a job or benefits, or they're released at the border, you're going to have more people coming. And we all know that's going to end on January 20th.
In terms of jobs, I was looking up some data, and I want to know if you've studied this, because the Biden administration has been very vocal about Bidenomics and how the economy is doing so well and added job growth. But there are some statistics that say that immigrants are making up more than half of those being hired for new jobs in America. So when we talk about whether they're stealing American jobs, there are a lot of people who say, wait a minute, they're doing jobs that nobody else wants. What's your perspective?
I think there's plenty of people in the United States that want to work that are also here legally or that are United States citizens. Under the first Trump administration, real wages for low-skilled workers went up. Why? Because we had more control at the border, fewer people coming in illegally, both at the border and into the job market. And so, yeah, maybe prices have to change. Maybe hourly wages have to change to encourage more Americans to get into the workforce. But we don't need tens and thousands of people coming across the border every month that are here illegally, that are going to fill those low-wage jobs. Those people are going to settle in the worst neighborhoods in the United States. They and their children are not going to live a better life in some cases. They're going to be picked off by gangs. They're going to be trafficked both on the way and in the United States. And so not having a controlled border, stopping the leak, and having a generous immigration system, being tough but smart, will help us all. And it will raise low-wage jobs in the United States. It will raise the cost of those jobs, but it will also raise wages for the people who do them.
One more quick question as we're out of time. And I think that a lot of people think of this as a humanitarian issue. We're America. We have prosperity for so many who, when you compare our lives to theirs, they have nothing. But how important is it, do you think, in terms of the fact that President Trump was reelected, that many Americans in this country, they just believe in the rule of law and that there need to be consequences for breaking the law, and that that's across the board, not just for immigration? How much do you think that plays into this conversation?
I think it's huge. We saw this chaos and nobody knew why. Nobody voted for tens of thousands of people coming across the border illegal every day in some cases during the Biden administration. So people want that fixed. And if we fix the border and we give the American people confidence that we can control the border, then all the other options about what we do in immigration become more evident, they become more available. People are generous. We let a million people into the United States every year legally through the front door. We've got to close the back door. We've got to shore up the border. We've got to sustain that capability at the border. And then American people will be just as generous as they are every single year.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.